Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to another anti-character guide. Well, not really an anti-character guide, it's more of a short, niche anti-stance guide for Heihachi. But this is also a good time to talk to you guys about why I haven't actually been doing any anti-character guides since I last posted one, which was a very long time ago, it was months and months ago. Nearing the end of Season 1, I wanted to start doing more anti-character guides, with the thinking that in Season 2, we would get the characters in a really good place where the anti-character guides would be more useful to you guys, right? And I'd be putting out content that could be better utilized for your defense, right? The problem, which I'm sure all of you are aware of, is that we had Season 2 and it was kind of a disaster when it first launched. However, with the recent patch, it seems like the direction of the game is going in a good place, in my opinion. And we're getting more counterplay. So, with that being said, my hope is that on June 3rd, when the latest patch is due to come out, we'll get the characters in a really good place where the anti-character guides that I make will serve to make your defense a lot better and will be a lot more useful to you with the current state of the game then. So in the meantime, until June 3rd, or if we have to wait even longer, I am going to start doing some anti-character stance and niche sort of stuff, character-specific stuff, right? But I'm not going to be doing full anti-character guides until the characters are in a good, solid place where they won't change too much with future updates, right? Because there's no point me doing a full anti-character guide and then the character changes, it completely does a 180, right? Which we've seen with some characters, right? So that's my thinking right now about the anti-character guides and where I'm at with them. But for now, for this video, we're going to be looking at Heihachi's Wind God Kame stance, right? This stance. Now, I've been playing a lot of Heihachi. If you've been watching any of my YouTube videos or you watch me on stream, you'll know that I play mostly Heihachi right now. And I noticed that a lot of people still don't know how to deal with this stance properly. So I thought it'd be a good idea today to go over some of the counterplay that you can use against this stance and to better up your defense when dealing with Heihachi. Because if you don't know how to deal with Heihachi, he can be very oppressive, right? Big counter hits. If you don't know the frames of certain things, you're going to get blown up, right? So hopefully this video can serve as a good basis for your anti-Heihachi, because a lot of Heihachis do actually use this stance quite a lot, right? And it will be useful for you to know how to deal with it. So starting off, we're going to be looking at different groups of stance transitions, right? You can go into Wind God Kame from a lot of different moves. You can go in from forward 3. You can do one back 2. You can do 3-2. You can do forward 2-2. You can do 1-2-2. You can do forward 4. And you can do while standing 4-4. These are all the moves that you can transition into Wind God Kame from. So I'm going to be splitting these into different groups because you'll see why in a second, but it's very important to note what the frames are on block for these stance transitions. So the first group we're going to look at right now is the forward 3, 1 back 2, 3-2, and forward 2-2. If you're looking in the bottom left, you're doing the right thing here, looking at the frame advantage, it's -2 for each one of these when he goes into the stance. This is super important because it really does determine what we can do to counter this stance. So, bearing that in mind, I'm going to use forward 3 here as my example tool, right, to show you what you can do as counterplay. But bear in mind, when I'm doing forward 3, you can apply this if the opponent is doing 1 back 2, if he's doing 3-2, and if he's doing forward 2-2 on top of the forward 3. Okay, so let's begin. So you know that forward 3 guarantees a follow-up if it hits, right? If you block this, there's something you can do. There's actually 4 different options you can do, which I'm going to show you now. So the first option I'm going to show you against this stance transition is to do a side step right duck. Now this beats a lot of different options that he has. It doesn't beat all of them, otherwise the stance would be meaningless, right? It would be completely useless if there was a counterplay option select for every single option you have in the stance, right? So there's going to be some give and take here. But the first option we're going to look at is to do a side step right duck. You can see it's beating the 2 option there. I'm going to show you these one by one so you know what the moves actually look like. It beats the low option here, the 4. It beats the 3 option here. It doesn't beat the 1-2. You can arguably fuzzy this, but realistically, it's not like very reliable in a game to do that. But if you're super sharp, maybe you can fuzzy that. You can slice it right fuzzy. You can slice it right duck the 1-1 here. You can't slice it right. You can't slice it right duck the power crush. There's just no way to react in time. You can slice it right duck the hell sweep option, and you can also slice it right duck the homing throw. So it beats all of the options that Heihachi has, apart from the 1+2 homing power crush and the 1-2 the high mid option that he has out of Wind God Kame stance. That is option number 1 to counter this. Option number 2 is to do a down forward 1. Now, funny thing about this, you can see it beats most of the options here. I'm not going to show you every single one. You have to take my word for it. It beats every single option here. But the thing is... Oh, wrong one. My bad. But the thing is... I get beaten out here by the power crush, right? The funny thing is... If you commit to the string, instantly... It will trade with him. Not super useful to know, I know. One other funny thing about this is because Heihachi's downward 1 is -5. This determines on how fast he can actually recover from doing the downward 1, right? When it gets blocked. So a funny thing is if you're using a character with a downward 1 that is -3 or less, like Jin, for instance, he has a 13 frame -3 downward 1, as you can see. If you're using any other character than Heihachi, or maybe Brian, you can option select this sound transition with anything. Sorry, I misspoke. You can option select this stance with a downward 1 for any character that has a 13 frame downward 1 and it's -3 or -2 or -1 or neutral, right? This works. Heihachi is one of the only characters that his downward 1 doesn't work against a 1+2, because even though it's 13 frames, it's -5, so it doesn't recover in time after it gets blocked before you're able to block the homing power crush with 1+2, right? I hope that makes sense. But for any other character, you can downward 1 check your opponent. Right, now moving on to the last option you have against the stance transitions, for this group at least. You can dick jab interrupt all of the stance transitions that he has. Even the power crush, right? I can block in time. This also works with Heihachi, by the way. Bear in mind that the dig jab interrupt will get beaten by 2 things. One of which might be kind of obvious to you. It will get beaten by the 3-4 because it low crushes, right? And a dig jab counts as a special mid, right? So you won't be able to dig jab here, even if you're super fast. And the other kind of funny thing that happens... See, I'm getting low parried here. This might seem kind of funny to you guys. But I think it's kind of funny. Basically, because Heihachi is doing a hell sweep. See, he's doing a hell sweep there. The input for doing that is when you go into Wind God Kame and you want to do the hell sweep, you have to hold down forward. You have to hold down forward and then press the 4, right? to go into Wind God step. Now, the reason he's getting a low parry there is because he has to hold down forward first before he does the fall. So, he's essentially low parrying at the same time. I thought it's kind of funny. It's not super necessary for this video, but it's kind of funny that that's why if you play Heihachi, maybe you're like, how did I get a low parry there? It's probably because you're trying to do the down forward 4 out of Wind God Kame stance, right? But yeah, so Dick Jab to Interrupt does work against everything but 3-4, and it will get low parried by the down forward 4 option from Wind God Kame, the Hell Sweep. Okay, that kind of covers those 4 different stance transitions. There are 3 more I want to look at, and each one is slightly different. So just bear with me. I'll get that set up for you right now. Okay, so the next stance transition we're going to look at is the 1-2-2 into Wind God Kame. Really important here to look at the frames he is on block. So you see, he's -9 when he goes into this stance from the 1-2-2 on block. Really important to know what this means. So you see he is going into the stance. When he's in the stance, he's -9. If he tries to get out of the stance and block again, that will take some frames. What this means is there are some frames in between the -9 in stance and him blocking again. Because what Heihachi actually has to do here to be able to block, see, he can't block in his stance. He can't block in his stance, right? So what he has to do is he has to do down forward and then back to cancel the stance and be able to block again. This takes some frames, so he's not actually -9 when you retaliate. He's not actually -9. He's actually -15. This is a 15 frame move and he cannot block. So, if you're using a character that has a safe down forward 2 at -7 or something like that, or a hop kick, and you know that Heihachi is going to go into this stance, obviously he doesn't have to, right? Just the same with the forward 3 or 1 back 2. He doesn't have to go into this stance, right? But if he's abusing this stance and he thinks that you don't know, he might try and mix you up with this and try and do a power crush or something. If you know this, you can do a 15 frame punish and launch this fucker, right? So on block against this is actually launch punishable. So bear that in mind. Even though it says -9, I know it can be confusing with the frame data sometimes when the character's going into stance and like then doing a cancel and then blocking again. It might not be clear what that actually means. But he can actually be launched here. He's -15. You can do a 15 frame punish. So that covers 1-2-2 on block. On hit, he is +4. Right? So at +4, he has the advantage, of course, right? Now, what we can actually do here, again, is a sidestep right duck beats all the options except from a 1+2 homing power crush, which I showed you before. This one, or the 1-2, the mid, right? The high mid. Again, if you get hit by this, you can still slice that right duck. Right? I'm not going to show you all the options again because hopefully you know what they look like by now. But slice that right duck does beat off the options except from 1+2 and the 1-2. So obviously if you actually get hit by a move into a stance, it's not very intuitive to try and sidestep, right? Because generally we don't do that in Tekken. But it is actually an option you can use against this stance. Now, would I recommend doing this? Only if you have very, very tight execution. Because this option does track a little bit. Just a tiny bit. But it's enough for you to mess up and get launched, right? If you do the sidestep too late, you'll get launched. So if you're going to try and do this, be very tight with execution. But if you practice this, you can actually do it very consistently. I am messing up because I'm talking. There you go. So again, the sidestep right duck beats all the options except from 1+2 and 1-2 if you get hit by 1-2-2 into Wind God Kame. Another thing with this counterplay is that you really have to know that your opponent is actually going into Wind God Kame in order to buffer the sidestep. Otherwise, this won't work. You can't react to Heihachi going into Wind God Kame and then do your sidestep, because you'll just be too late and you'll get launched. Or you'll just get hit by something, right? So only use this if it's like a read. And then you can launch him, right, if you sidestepped him. You can also dick jab interrupt this stance transition. Again, if you get hit by the 1-2-2. You can dick jab interrupt, but again, it will get low crushed by the 3-4. So be very careful. Also, it does not beat the power crush this time. Don't have enough frames for that. So be careful. But again, it's something that you can use if you have a hard read, or you know that he actually doesn't like to use 3-4 and doesn't like to use 1+2. Parry here is not recommended because you might want to parry this stance, which is good for some things. But let's say, for example, that he's going to do his Hell Sweep. You'll get launched. If you try and parry and he does 3-4, you get launched. Right, so I wouldn't recommend using a parry here. Maybe some other characters' parries are more useful here, but Heihachi certainly is not useful. It's not useful enough for you to risk throwing it out. It's just there in case you actually want it. So the next move we're going to look at is his forward 4. Now, if he does this on its own, it's +4. And if he goes into Wind God Kame, it is also +4. So there's no change in frames here. He has a big advantage, right? +4 is super good for Heihachi. Now, there is stuff you can do. Again, because it's +4, and if you remember, 1-2-2 into Wind God Kame is +4. Forward 4 on block into Wind God Kame is also +4. So your counterplay is essentially the same for if you get hit by 1-2-2. You can, again, sidestep right duck, and that will beat all options except from the 1+2 homing mid power crush, and the 1-2, right? Which arguably is actually fuzzyable. But obviously, Heihachi does forward 4. Use this. You know, just try and read what your opponent is doing. The safest option here is to just take the mix up, but there is counterplay there if you want it. Like, again, you can sidestep right duck and it will beat all options apart from the 1+2 power crush and the 1-2. It is super useful. Again, dick jab interrupt gets low crush by 3-4 and doesn't beat the power crush. Dick jab won't beat this, and dick jab will not beat this either. And again, parry not recommended for the reasons I've already stated in the last, when we went over 1-2-2. If you get hit by this, just block. Don't press. If you get hit by this, do not press. Do not press, do not move, do not do anything. Just block. Just take the mix up. You have to. There isn't an answer for everything, unfortunately. So the last stance we're going to look at, last stance transition, sorry, we're going to look at is his while standing 4-4. -15 if he doesn't go into his stance transition, right? If he goes into his stance transition here, he's -9. This is really important, right? You might feel a bit tricked. This is really important because, as we said before, when Heihachi is -9 in Wind God Kame, you can get a 15 frame punish here. Even though it says -9, he is -15 here. -15. Right, so if you block while standing 4-4, launch him. Just launch him. If you get hit by while standing 4-4, you are -6. At -6 is also the threshold where we don't do anything. We just block, right? There's no reliable answer you can do here. If you have a read that he's going to do something that you can power crush, whatever you want. But honestly, I think the best defensive strategy here is to just block if you get hit by while standing 4-4. Which is what you'd expect, right? You get hit by a move and then you block it, right? And the very last thing I'm going to talk about with Heihachi in respect to his stance is when he is in heat. Now, you might already know this, but when Heihachi goes into heat and then goes into this stance, the Wind God Kame stance, he automatically parries any punches or kicks. You can hit him with lows, you can hit him with knees, and you can hit him with elbows. You can also hit him with airborne attacks and a throw. These all work against the heat version of this stance. If you retaliate in any form with any of these stance transitions, you will get parried. So you see that even the 1-2-2 here, which is -9, which usually would get this 15 frame punish, which we actually do because it's a knee in this case. It starts off with a knee with Heihachi. But if it doesn't start off with a knee, which is the most case for most characters, you can't press into the stance. It will automatically get parried. That goes for literally every single stance transition he has into Wind God Kame. But again, you can counter his parry. You can counter this stance by doing knees, elbows, throws, and airborne attacks. They all work against this type of parry. This type of automatic parry. Because he doesn't actually have to press anything here. He automatically parries when he's in this stance. I actually almost forgot to put this in the video, so I'm glad that I didn't forget. But yes, be very careful because he automatically parries every attack in this stance, apart from the ones I just mentioned. But so that's going to cover all of the different options you have to deal with Wind God Kame and the different transitions he has from different moves into that stance. That's also going to wrap up the video. I hope you guys found this useful. If you did find this useful, do me a favor and leave a like. And if you're new here and you want to find your way back, hit the subscribe button down below. Much love, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Take it easy, and I will see you in the next one.